Well, the worst of the weather has left us, and from here on it should be an improving picture. Still a bit of rain to come through, and I think as the afternoon wears on, we will continue to have a couple of showers. There actually could be some hail and some thunder in those showers, but for the most part, the picture does get better. It will be quite mild through the afternoon. Top temperature, 9 Celsius.
Have lunch with Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Oh yeah, there you are then. 1% reduction in interest rates. We'll have to see now whether the banks and what building societies there are left pass it on to the schmucks that are buying houses. But what about the other poor souls? It's all very well, isn't it? Oh yeah, we've cut interest rates, everybody dances in the street. But what about the poor beggars that are using their investments to fund their retirement? They're stuffed, aren't they? They, in the last few weeks, have seen their income, well, effectively reduced by a substantial amount. I mean, just today it's been reduced by a third, if they're relying on their income from investment. So that's a bit of a stuffer, isn't it? But who cares about them? Let them die. Exactly. What we need to look after are the white middle classes. That's who we need to look after. Dead easy. And they're all in debt up to their todgers, aren't they? So we've got to protect them from the ramification that's always gone on. Yeah, we must protect the middle classes. Because they matter? No. Because they're better people than the working classes or the retired? No. Why? For the absolutely cynical reason that they're the beggars that put governments in power. That's the truth of it. Middle England, that's who's being protected. Now, you know, I have to say, my mortgage will go down 1%. That's quite a lot of money, I'm sure. I don't know. I'll get a letter eventually if it goes down. And if I get in trouble with my mortgage, if I'm not able to pay it, then the government will look after me and pay my interest, or at least make the building society allow me to build up the interest for as much as a couple of years, which is nice. But somebody else is going to have to fund the profit margins of that organisation. Who's that somebody else going to be? Well, who else but the poor schmuck who hasn't lost his job, the individual that isn't in difficulty? Has the time come for the government to realise that they have more responsibilities than just looking after the middle classes, Middle England? Is it time that the government started to look at our society and decide whether we should look after the weakest in our society and, if necessary, fund that work by charging the strongest? Isn't that how it works? Have we really come to a state of pass when it doesn't matter if you're rich, it doesn't matter if you're poor? What it does matter is if you're a swinging voter. That's the only thing that counts. It's like I said the other day. Barack Obama is sat there right now, worried sick about how to get re-elected in 4 years' time. That's all that's on his mind. That's all that's on his mind. He appoints that Clinton harridan to be Secretary of State because he thinks by doing that he's got a better chance of getting re-elected in 4 years' time. This bunch of clowns running Britain, they are there with the sole intention of, will we win the next election? Do you remember? Do you remember all the dithering with Gordon Brown? Gordon Brown, the press, I take my share of the responsibility, but the press said, just after he was appointed leader, the press said, let's have a general election, let's sort it out. And had he gone to the country then, he had a good chance of winning. If he went now, he'd be kicked out. But he's dithering left him where he is. But all he's concerned about is getting re-elected. And before you think that's a party political broadcast for the other bunch of cretins, well, that's all they care about as well. They'll all tell you that the only way to save the country is vote for me. That's exactly what they'll... Vote for me, I'll save the country. Will they hellers like, vote for me, and then I'll do everything I can to get you to vote for me next time. Dear God, what a sorry pass. We are being shafted by democracy.
Your Sunday morning lie-in with Mike Shaft.
How did you come to faith?
I came to faith through a crisis in my life. I almost drowned one time, and through this process, basically, God began to humble me in my soul and break me and make me realize that I was a finite man.
Mike Shaft.
Deborah's been looking at some of our Christmas traditions.
I have a little Advent truck at home, and it's got 24 drawers, and I write little messages for my children of things they have to do every day. So I suppose in my own way I'm trying to put the meaning of Christmas back in.
Manchester's faith, spirit, and life's difficult questions with Mike Shaft.
It's just fantastic.
Sunday morning from 7 on BBC Radio Manchester.
That's nice, isn't it? That lady saying, I'm putting the true meaning back into Christmas. Presumably by buying a very shiny, colourful piece of cardboard with little doors on it for about £3. Surely she can open the little door and say, there, the true meaning of Christmas. A picture of some holly. Perhaps a snowman. Maybe even, if she got it off the God Squad, maybe even the baby Jesus. Or that Virgin in blue. Oh, what a lovely thought. Or the bearded carpenter with the stick. Absolutely. But how did she do it? How else? By buying something. Exactly. Christmas is about spending money. Even if you do spend it in a Christian sort of way. It's about getting your brass out of your pocket, for God's sake. Brian says it's in our own hands, literally. If the section of the population who have more interested in drinking and sponging off the state got off their backsides and voted in elections, they would attract the attention of politicians. Until that happens, I say, stuff them. Who is it you wanted to stuff? The people who sponge off the state and sit on their backsides? All right. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. But not everybody is actually in that position. Retired people, it's a bit hard for them to get off their backsides. They've done their bit. I can accept an argument that perhaps the retirement age ought to be increased to 70. I mean, retired people used to retire at 60 for women and 65, and you sort of guaranteed that within a decade they'd done the decent thing and snuffed it. But now the beggars hang on and on and on. Oh, dear God, you can't move for 80-year-olds. They're all over the blessed place. So now that they've decided, now that they won't drop like flies like they're supposed to, perhaps you ought to make them work a bit longer. Oh, yeah. Well, no, you can't. No. You can't have them living forever. Have they got no sense of public spiritedness? So maybe we ought to change the retirement age, but until then, only decency says we've got to look after the beggars. It's not, it's not the kind of thing where you volunteer, is it, really? Although one or two have. Oh, aye, one or two have volunteered to snuff it. There was a story in the paper today of a person, an elderly chap, who's committed suicide. Now, why has he committed suicide? Well, it's a strange story. And you can't always believe everything you read. So I'm not falling into that ambush and actually believing everything that I read. Please credit me with something. But if this is true, it's worth a coulter looking at. Smoker suicide over pub cigs ban. A taxman, I hear you say, no great loss. That's harsh. A taxman was driven to suicide after the pub smoking ban turned him into a recluse. An inquest was told. Bachelor Lawrence Walker, 61, and had joined visiting his local several nights a week for cigarettes and a few beers. But friends said he got depressed after the ban and stayed at home, alone, in Truro, in Cornwall. He threw himself off rocks at Newquay nearly a year after the ban came in, having left a note for his neighbour. His neighbour said he thought that to have to stand in the rain just because you wanted a cigarette was insulting. He became a virtual recluse. I've mentioned this before. I dyed in the wool, dead set against, absolutely unequivocal, definitely, I can't think of any more positive way of saying it, against smoking. I think it's a vile, despicable, reprehensible habit. I think people who smoke stink. They really do pong. And, frankly, they're costing me money. But let's put that to one side. We live in a free country, or at least as free as it can be. We've created a monster, in a way, by saying that no public spaces can allow people to smoke in them. And you end up with these huddles of lunatics outside, sucking their coffin nails in the hope that it won't kill them today. Ought we not to be more sophisticated than that? Ought we not to change the no smoking to a limited smoking? In other words, premises can choose. Premises can choose. So the local pub, now a building like a post office, which is available to all in the usual way, but a commercial enterprise, an entirely commercial enterprise that doesn't sell food other than snacks and crisps and that kind of rubbish. But a building that doesn't sell food and merely exists for the purveyance of alcohol should be able to choose whether it is a smoking premise or a non-smoking premise. Because much as I dislike the habit of smoking, I don't really dislike smokers. And they surely have rights too, don't they? What do you say? No, I don't want them polluting my atmosphere, but I want a big sign on the door. You know, like a big sign on the door used to say, this is, I don't know, in Warrington it said, this is a Walker's pub, or this is a Greenall's pub. And people thought, well, I don't want to drink Walker's ale, I'll go and drink Greenall's. Or I don't want to drink Greenall's ale, I'll go and drink Walker's. People had a choice. The pub made a decision. It's not as simple as that, but the pub made a decision what kind of ale it was going to sell, and the customers sorted themselves out accordingly. Well, could we not have a situation where a pub, particularly when there's more than one in the vicinity, but where a pub proprietor is entitled to say, this is a smoking pub. If you want to work here, you've chosen to work in a smoking pub. If you want to drink here, you've chosen to drink in a smoking pub. If you don't, that's fine. Go someplace else. There's one down the road that doesn't. You tell me, what do you think? What do you think? Should we look again? Not because this bloke's thrown himself off the rocks. There's probably a whole pile of reasons why he's done that. But have we the right to curtail an idiot's freedom to behave like an idiot? If the behaviour is controlled in such a way as it to be not harmful to anyone else other than those that choose to accept it. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk and the text number 07786 206 951. Feel free. The floor is yours. You can talk about out. Barry in Longsight. Hiya, Barry.
Oh, it's just a quickie. Have you been to Southport lately?
Yes, I have. About 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, what them small wrinkly things on sticks that they have there?
I think they call them pensioners, don't they?
Yeah, you've heard it.
I'm afraid I have, yes.
See you now.
Ta-ra, mate. It was a good try. 0161 228 2255. I went to Southport recently. I'd not been for a while. Shame on me, I hear you say. But I went because there was a sort of celebration of the life, they call it, don't they? A celebration of the life of a pal of mine who obviously died. We don't celebrate anyone's life until they haven't got it anymore. A lad called Dave Ockley. And I went to his service and did a little bit of presentation or whatever you call it. I don't know. But it was a do in a bar, and loads of his mates turned up and played music and all that. And somebody filmed it, and there's going to be a DVD out. So that's nice, isn't it? And the DVD, the money goes to the hospice where Ockley, as I always knew him, died. Good lad. But there you are. So that's why I was in Southport recently, but hadn't been there for a while before that, because, well, it's a long, long way to go when it hasn't even got the seeing it's supposed to have. Alan, did you see yet more scum who was using disabled badges and disabled spaces back in the local news? When will these people understand that these spaces are for people with difficulties who find shopping and other things a struggle? And to boot, they come up with some really crappy excuses, like it was the only picture I had left of my mother on the badge. Well, OK, but that's a reason for putting it on your mantelpiece, not your dashboard, surely. Well, there you are, what do I know? But they do, don't they? There's some horrible bits about, aren't there? That's for sure. There are some people who are so minded about their own importance that, frankly, They don't give a stuff about anybody else. And that's sad. But it is one of the realities of life, is it not? 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And the text number, of course, 07786 206 951. And at 20 minutes past 12 o'clock, we've got the BBC Radio Manchester headlines with Anna Dawson.
Within the past half an hour, the Bank of England has announced that interest rates have been cut by 1%. They now stand at 2%. That's the lowest rate for half a century. A health worker from Bolton's been jailed for 3.5 years for performing an intimate examination on a 15-year-old girl when he wasn't qualified. And a 19-year-old girl being questioned over a crash on the M62 yesterday has been bailed until March. A 50-year-old man was killed in the crash involving 2 cars and a lorry between Eccles and Warrington. Manchester's weather much drier this afternoon. Some showers around, though. Highs of 6 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Well, the lanes have now been reopened on the M62 westbound just before 21 Mill Row. The police stopped traffic to recover a car that had spun around and was facing the wrong way. Traffic still queuing there, but it is starting to ease up finally. Now, the weather conditions around that part of the motorway is still fairly bad, although visibility does seem to be improving. It was very foggy around about an hour and a half ago, but thankfully it seems to have cleared up a bit there. So at least visibility is more or less back to normal. Nonetheless, though, still very wet on the carriageway, so a lot of surface spray around. In High Peak, Woodhead Road between the Lady Bower Reservoir and Home Firth, that's still closed off because of snowfall on the carriageway. That's the main road from Glossop to Huddersfield. And don't forget, if you can update me further, call in on the travel line. The number you need, 0161 244 4951. I'm Carla Banks.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
Aye, all right. 0161 228 2255. Herbie in Withenshaw. Hi, Herbie.
Morning, Alan.
Morning, sir.
Quick one about the pub, the smoking ban.
Please.
In Withenshaw, where I live, there approximately, at the top of my head, about 15 to 18 pubs and clubs closed down.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years and 12 years or whatever. So it's not... The term "you're local" doesn't really exist with everybody now. So it's not... I'm disagreeing with the part where you can't, you should go have a free pub, a smoking pub, because it might be, that would deny people who don't smoke access to that pub, and it might mean they might have to travel quite a distance. I'm going to give you another example now about the local club where I go in, the Legion. We've spoke before. We have, at the back of our club, a spare room, which we used to use for stocking bottles and bits of rubbish and this, that, and the other. We cleared it out. What we do now, the people walk through it, they go out of the concert room, they walk along a passage through this room, and they go out where we've got a smoking shed outside. When the smoking ban was first coming in, the thing I had in my head was, we'll use that little room, it'll be ideal for the smokers. Of course, when the legislation came out and we got the leaflets with the National Health Service on, you had to have 2 open ends. So that's the kind of shelter we have to build. We've still not got permission for it yet. We're still waiting from the City Council, but that's another story.
God. Right.
We're still waiting. We'll get an answer, I believe, sometime around about the 18th, the 22nd.
Well, that's all right.
January.
Tell them it's a work of art. They'll buy it off you. But only if it's falling down. Go on.
That's right. So the thing is, Alan, I can't, for the life of me, understand why you can't have a room. If you've got a spare room, point about it is, if people want to go in that room and smoke, they're going to smoke anyway, which is the point you were making earlier. They want to go in that room and smoke. I am not going in that room. Well, only the smokers.
I accept that. The problem is that if you have such a room, chances are it'll have a door on it, otherwise it won't work. And every time they open it, all their putrefaction comes out and we all have to have a suck of it. Involuntarily. Well, yeah, but...
It does twist and turn. It's a corridor first before you get to the
Well,
room.
it will, I promise you it will. If there was a gas leak in there, you'd smell it in the bar.
Yeah, you would.
And so I don't think people who want clean air should have other people's filth pressed upon them.
Well, yeah. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, I think it's sometimes a bit of give and take, and that's what I was prepared to do.
Well, I don't think there should be any give and take. I think people should be allowed to make a choice. But I don't think that anybody should be allowed to make a choice that involuntarily affects another.
Right.
So if the Legion, and it would be entirely up to the Legion and the committee and all the rest of it, if the Legion, be it yours or the one my dad goes to in Blackpool, sat round and had a meeting and said, right, we're going to have it a smoking place, then the Legion is a smoking place.
Right.
And if that's what the majority of the people who visit the place and are members of it, then that's up to them. Now, that will mean that some will say, well, I'm not coming, whichever way the vote goes. But that's the reality. But surely the idea, and I take your point about pubs closing, but frankly, Herbie, if we carry on as we are, there won't be any pubs.
There won't be any left, no.
Because they're going to the wall. I got into this frame of mind when Radio Manchester recently sent me to the bingo. It's all the rock and roll lifestyle in radio, as you know. Right. And I was sent to the bingo. Now, I'd previously gone to the bingo 18 months, 2 years earlier.
Yeah.
And the difference in the atmosphere was remarkable. The bingo hall I went to previously was one in Middleton.
It is a doornail, is it?
No, the one I went to in Middleton was a live wire.
Really?
And it was, oh, God, yeah, they were beating them off with sticks. And the air was like fog. I had a croaky throat for 2 days after.
Oh, no, it is horrible.
The atmosphere was vile. And although I loved being in the company of the people because they were great fun, and I enjoyed being a bingo caller, which was even more fun, I didn't like the fact that I had to hang my clothes in the garage for 2 days afterwards.
That's worse than a lot.
So that was that. And then recently I went to the bingo hall again. And, it was less. There were fewer people there, that's for sure. Fewer people there. And the air was as clean as anything. And I just thought, what right have I, middle class, reasonably well educated, reasonably well played bloke who can drive to the next place if I want, what right have I to say to the customers of that particular bingo hall, you will not go there and have a fag? Now, the bingo hall's got that right, because whoever owns the bingo hall has got the right to turn away whoever he or she fancies. But when did it become my right?
Well, the government did that, didn't they?
Indeed, they did.
When they introduced a smoking bill, I think it was a majority of something like 480, and then there was an amendment to it, if I probably recall.
I do.
For clubs and pubs, for clubs.
And that was thrown out.
No, that went through. That went through the amendment.
Well, it's still the
case. It didn't have as big a majority, but it went through, and that's when it came in pubs in clubs as well. They thought clubs weren't going to be included.
Indeed, but I see what you mean now. Yes, but the whole thing was they're all going to be banned.
Yeah, but at first it was just going to be pubs. And
yes, I'm aware. But they moved it on to virtually all indoor premises.
Because somebody put an amendment, an addition. Well, it's an addendum, really. An extra addendum to it, you see.
Well, okay, we won't get involved in the technology of language on this occasion. But the truth is that had I been a member of Parliament, and that isn't possible, had I been a member of Parliament, I would honestly have voted to ban it all over the country, in every premise. And frankly, now that I've seen the consequence to just ordinary people like you and me, I'm not sure that the right decision's been made. I think we need to re-examine it and say, hang on a minute, these human beings, they're entitled to their disgusting habit just like I'm entitled to mine.
I'll tell you something, Alan, that I've said since the smoking ban. I've tried to accommodate them and say, well, I would give you this other room if I could, but I'm not allowed to. But having been in pubs most of my life, I used to play darts and different things, and I've always breathed in the smoke, obviously, for 40 years or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 68 almost now.
Well, you've not long left then. Oh, you've been breathing in all that smoke, mate. Hey, go on, I'm sorry.
That's a good statement you just made, because I don't think I'd have long left if you had to start breathing the smoke again.
No, you wouldn't, would you?
I'll tell you this much. Since I've stopped, since the smoking ban's come in, I've had the pleasure of the clean air. And I also believe, I thought, I'm blowed if I'd come in.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That is the thing.
So I think there'd be a different effect coming into it.
Well, I think what the government were trying to do, and I certainly was supportive of it, and still supportive of the concept, what the government was trying to do was to put people in the position where you might as well give up because they ain't letting you do it no place.
That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. But we sometimes have to think, well, hang on a minute, there's a bigger issue at stake here, and that is the freedom of individuals to behave like crackpots.
Yeah, well, lots of people say to me they've taken my freedom of choice away from me. Lots
Yeah,
of people do
absolutely. Well, the important thing about freedom of choice, we should be entitled to do as we please, providing it doesn't harm somebody else.
Somebody else, that's right.
And if we have public smoking, then it does harm somebody else.
It's all about passive smoking, isn't it?
It is indeed. Good on you, matey.
Right, Alan.
Have a good one. 0161 228 2255. Barbara in Rochdale. Hiya, Barbara.
Hello there.
What can we do for you?
I've just got two questions which have been puzzling me for a few weeks, and I'm sure you've got the answer.
Well, one of us will have, one of the thousands listening will have, if I am. Go on.
Oh, by the way, I'm one of those pesky 80-year-olds that won't drop.
Well, I've nothing to say to you.
No, the first, do you ever remember, and I don't know whether they still do it, when Norway used to send very, very tall tree for Christmas
For
to this
Trafalgar
country?
Square.
Do they still do it?
I don't know, but it used to be on the telly every time, didn't it? On newsreels. Do you remember newsreels? With all them lines going round. And then there would be pictures of some poor beggar stood in the cold with an overcoat on and one of them huge microphones saying, "And here it is, a gift from the people of Norway to the people." Yeah, and it'd go up in Trafalgar Square. I don't know.
Do you know why they did it in the first place?
Because we'd bomb them, probably. Well, we saved them, didn't they, with the Talimar thing. You remember that? Oh dear, what was it called now? Oh dear. We went there when the British soldiers and the army were trying to stop Hitler making what was called heavy water.
Ah, yes.
Do you remember? What were they called? The Heroes of Talimar.
That's right. They made a film of it.
They did. I knew all about that because my dad was nearly one of them.
Really?
Well, along with a lot of other paras. It's a great tale. I only found it out about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But my dad and all his unit, they were designated. I mean, they didn't know this at the time, to be fair, but they were designated to be dropped into Norway to go and knock out these heavy water plants.
Yes.
And that was the task they were going to have.
Right.
So they took them to Wales, and they did their parachute drops in Wales onto the sort of the Black Mountains of Wales, Herefordshire and all of that. And they did their parachute drops on there to see how they might deal with landing on the rock. And so many of them broke their legs and did all the rest of it that they said, well, if we drop them in Norway, there won't be enough left to fight. So they then got the sort of insurgents in Norway to do it, and they became the Heroes of Talimar and did a superb job, and why not? But that was how my dad's unit ended up at Arnhem.
Right.
Because had they gone to Norway, they wouldn't have been available to go to Arnhem.
Oh,
so that's how they went to Arnhem. What was left of them after they'd mended all their legs and everything. So there you are.
Do they still send the tree?
Well, that's where I'm stuck. I don't know. Does anybody know? Do tell.
Somebody might, yes. My second question
Go on.
is, could you tell me the name of the British Prime Minister that said, "You've never had it so good"?
Yes.
This is a family argument.
Harold Macmillan.
Harold Macmillan.
Harold Macmillan.
I didn't win that one.
Did you not?
No.
Oh, did you? Well, I hope there's not a lot riding on it. He was also the Prime Minister, but many, many years later, when Margaret Thatcher began to privatise national industries, you know, tell Sid and all that lot, he was the one who said, with an absolute grasp of the ordinary person's life, said, "It's tantamount to selling off the Canaletto."
Oh.
So there you are.
That settled me. Thank you very much.
He was, by all accounts, I'll be corrected if I've got it wrong, that's for sure, but he was the one who supposedly said that you've never had it so good.
Thank you, Alan.
Cheers. Have a good one. If anybody knows, do we still get the Christmas tree? And if not, are they shafting us? Oh, here's Ted in Moston. The reason Norway used to send us a Christmas tree is because of the connections between the Norwegian royal family and the British royal family. The current King of Norway is a direct descendant of Queen Victoria. From Ted in Moston. Thank you very much. I don't know why. I should have just rang you, Ted. I knew you'd know. But then we say, well, what do we give them? Because we're as much their cousin, as it were, as they are ours. So what do we send them for Christmas? We don't really have a lot that the Norwegians might want that we have. Perhaps we send them some baubles. Because if nothing else, we've loads of baubles, haven't we, one way or another? But thank you for that. It had absolutely nothing to do with the heroes of Telemar, and rather more to do with the inbred nature of the European royal families. But thank you for that. So there you are, Barbara. The reason we get a Christmas tree, if we still do, but the reason we did traditionally get a Christmas tree as a gift to the people of the United Kingdom from the people of Norway was precisely because of the inbreeding of European royal families. So there you are. Does anybody know if we still get the tree? It used to be a dirty, great big un, a prime spruce or whatever the heck. I know they have one outside number 10 Downing Street, but I don't know where that comes from. Chances are they won't buy it, because you know what them politicians are like, they won't give a door a bang. 0161 228 2255. Bob in Eccles, how are you doing, Bob?
Hello, Alan. Yes, we do send a tree to Trafalgar Square, and in fact it's switch on tonight.
Oh, excellent. The Norwegian tree.
Times Diary.
Who is it?
It's in the Times Diary. What's on?
Right.
Okay.
Well, I've got the Times, but I haven't got the diary. That's a beggar, isn't it? Anyway, good on you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
So that's Barbara fully informed. Now we've got the quote from Harold Macmillan. And on top of all that, we've got the information. We do still get the tree from Norway. So, yes. There. So, ask and you shall receive, as the good book apparently says. 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, that's good. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. Text number is, of course, 07786 206 951. David says, I have no sympathy for people who are daft enough to smoke in a public place. If they want to smoke themselves to death in their own homes, well, good luck to them. I look forward to a shop that bans smoking at the doorway. I'm sick of running the gauntlet. Well, of course, in my plan, David, you wouldn't have to run the gauntlet, because I, too, am sick of running these weed suckers' gauntlets. I, too, am sick of it. But if they had premises that were permitted, in which they were permitted to smoke, they wouldn't have to stand about like heroin addicts, like the opium wars. They wouldn't have to stand about in the street, stinking up the atmosphere for you and I. So that would at least be a step in the right direction, perhaps, but certainly I have absolutely no sympathy for them at all. Let them rot in hell, say I. I just have sympathy for their freedoms, which is entirely different. Noel in Warrington. Hiya, Noel.
Hi, Alan. Read the Christmas tree. I know I still get it.
We still get it.
Yeah, it's actually given by the people of Norway to the people of Britain for a thank you for everything we did for them during the last war.
Ah, well, we've got a different version.
The one about the royal family?
Yeah.
That's bullshit. Excuse me.
Well, that's got it off the fence, hasn't it?
Yeah, she's actually related to about 99% of the royal families, either by cousins or whatever.
Oh, as I say, that's why they do lally. They're all inbred.
That's right.
It's like the whole of St. Helens.
That's why the Russian Tsar, the one that died, who had the bleeding disease, I can never remember the proper name for it.
Haemophilia. Haemophilia.
That's right. Sorry, yeah.
It's all right.
Well, his mother, it comes through the female genes, and his mother was from the German royal family.
Right.
And there was a thought that at the time that it might go to the English royal family.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, they could have been a load of easy bleeders.
Yes.
Mind you, I've heard...
Still, mate.
So many jokes in there, none of them we want to do.
I know. Right. Before you go, this smoking...
Yes?
In the pubs. I can't... 12 months ago, it's affected my daughter. She lost her job through it.
How?
And she worked for a charity.
You'll have to explain that. That's got me on tenterhooks, that.
Yeah. Right, well, she used to go around pubs putting toys in, and they used to do a raffle for the toys.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right. And the pubs are shutting down.
Yeah, they are. Loads of pubs are going to the wall.
Yeah. They reckon in Oldham, which was her main area, there was 5 a week going. And this is 6 months ago.
And are you, as others do, are you putting that down to the smoking ban, or just the fact that people seem now to be more interested in buying cheap ale and drinking it at home?
As a reformed smoker of 20 years ago, but I can see both sides of it.
Yeah.
I actually think, with the question you've just put me, yes, it's the people not being able to smoke in a pub that's doing it. Because what's happening is, the wife tells me, the blokes at her place, they're buying sheds in the back garden, and they're going in the back garden, a couple of mates round, and they're having the booze in, and they're having a smoke in there, and a drink and what have you, because you've had smokers on who've said, and your people who smoke at your place will be the same, they have to go outside for a smoke.
Yes, they do.
Well, if you're having a conversation, I think you've said this before, you're having a conversation, and one of them says, oh, I'm going for a smoke, and the other two smokers go with him, or however many there are, and the conversation stops. So you either go outside with the smokers as a non-smoker, or a conversation stops.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
It's killing the pubs.
All right, good on you.
Bear in mind, I actually think the pubs charge too much for booze.
Indeed they do, but they're only going to charge more, aren't they? They're not going to start giving big discounts now that many of them are going to it wall.
When a pub charges a landlord £1,500 a week for his rent,
yeah,
not for his beer, his
I know.
rent.
He's got to go a long, long way. You've got to sell a lot of pints to get that back.
Yeah, you have.
Good on you, matey. Thank you very much indeed. Ta-ra now. 0161228 2255. Neil in Bebbington says, when I withdraw, I lose interest too. Indeed. And probably withdraw far too early, I've heard. It's just gone 20-1 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Anna Dawson.
A verdict is expected imminently in the Shannon Matthews case. It's understood the jury have returned to court after considering their verdict. Shannon's mother Karen and Michael Donovan deny kidnap and false imprisonment. The Bank of England's announced interest rates have been cut by 1% this lunchtime. They now stand at 2%. That's the lowest rate for half a century. And a health worker from Bolton's been jailed for 3.5 years for performing an intimate examination on a 15-year-old girl when he wasn't qualified. Manchester's weather much drier this afternoon. Some showers around, though. Highs of 6 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
If you're using the High Peak, Woodhead Road still closed off between Ladybower Reservoir and Home Firth. That's the main stretch from Gloucester to Huddersfield that's affected by snowfall. In Poynton at Fountain Place, Chester Road, the lights are out at the junction with London Road South and traffic's starting to queue on surrounding routes. And delays up to 40 minutes can be expected on Northern Rail services between Hebden Bridge and Rochdale because of an incident in the Tormodon area. Services are now able to run on their normal routes, but some residual delays are likely. Any further problems you spot, the number 0161 244 4951. I'm Carla Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Steve Wilde.
Hello, good afternoon to you. Roy Keane won't be making another fond return to Old Trafford to face his old manager on Saturday. Just 2 days before the match with Manchester United, Keane is understood to have left his job as the Sunderland boss. He'd been having crisis talks with Chairman Niall Quinn today. Our reporter in the North East is Ian Dennis.
Well, rumours have been extremely strong in the last 24 hours, but I understand Keane has parted company with Sunderland. The club are yet to confirm or deny the story. I understand there have been talks this week between Keane and the board, certainly over the last 3 days, and the players and staff have been informed of the decision this morning. Results have been poor of late. Sunderland have slipped into the relegation zone, and Keane has also expressed a lot of self-doubt over his suitability for the job. But his 27-month reign on Wearside is over.
And I can confirm that within the last few moments, Sunderland have indeed confirmed that they've parted company with Roy Keane as their manager. More on that throughout the course of the afternoon. Carlos Tevez' teammates have praised the way he's responded to a lack of first-team football since the arrival of Dimitar Berbatov. Tevez scored a hat-trick and claimed a fourth goal in United's 5-3 Carling Cup win over Blackburn last night. Defender Johnny Evans said it was the perfect way to remind the manager of his qualities.
Well, I think that's the best way to respond, and he's a real fighter, Carlos. He works hard every time he's on the pitch, and it's nice for him to get plenty of goals. I think that's anyone sort of looks at that, but I think Carlos, the fans know what he's all about. He works so hard, and I don't think he'd ever come on the pitch and not put his work rate in. He always does. I think it's just natural. He can't help himself, and it's great for the team.
And meanwhile, Daniel Sturridge has told BBC Radio Manchester that his run in the Manchester City side during their UEFA Cup campaign has been a huge benefit. The Blues are guaranteed at least 3 more games in the competition, with 1 still to come in the group stages and 2 in the knockout rounds that they've already reached. And Sturridge thinks that's good news for him.
It's good experience for me, obviously. I'm not really playing in my position, so it's good education for me, I suppose, playing out on the left. I think we play the same style in terms of, we play attacking football, and we work hard and we try and break teams down, and then obviously, do our attacking stuff.
The Middlesbrough striker Mido has blamed the Football Association for the Islamophobic chanting he suffered at Newcastle last weekend. He says the FA's lack of action when it happened last year contributed to a repeat. The England cricket captain Kevin Pietersen says he's very confident the rest of the Test series in India will go ahead next week. Speaking at the airport ahead of their departure to Abu Dhabi later today, Pietersen said he believed all the relevant security measures will be in place and they'll fly on to India on Monday.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
There's full-match commentary on the Heineken Cup game between Sale and the French side Montauban at Edgeley Park. That's tomorrow night from 7 o'clock.
BBC Radio Manchester.
It's a long way to Tipperary. It's a long way. Oh, we're back. Right, here we go then. I like this story. I'm brave of him to say so. Yeah, Steve in St Helens said, 2 women were trying to... It's not a joke. 2 women were trying to rescue a kitten from up a tree. They'd got a ladder, but I couldn't let them go up, and so I climbed up. Suddenly, I froze. I was sat on a large branch, and I was too scared to move an inch. The woman had to phone the fire brigade to rescue me, then go back up for the cat. I felt as big as a pea. Excellent. Why does anyone go up a tree to rescue a cat? Cats can get down. They don't go up things they can't get down. That's cats. They're not stupid, and they just sit there up the tree going, meow. Watch this, Charlie. I'm going to make the human. We might get the fire brigade if we keep this up. Meow. And they sit there and howl, and all the stupid humans run round. If cats couldn't get themselves out of trees, every tree would have a cat skeleton in it. You have a look. Go and have a look today while the leaves are off. Have a look up a tree. See if you see a cat skeleton. No, that's because the cats get down on their own. They go up there in the full knowledge that they'll make us all look balmy.
Life and laughs with Eamon and Jimmy.
Another one he came up with was to lay down in a trench and pretend to be Frankenstein.
Bit of harmless fun, pretending to be dead.
What are you doing in front of that computer? Go on air and lie in a ditch.
Kids today, they don't know they're born.
Happy days. Happy days.
Eamon O'Neill
and Jimmy Wag.
I think I've been reincarnated. Do you believe in incarnation?
No, and I didn't believe in it when I was a dog. What goes tick tick, woof woof?
A watchdog.
A watchdog.
If your radio sounds funny on Sunday morning, you must be listening to Eamon O'Neill and Jimmy Wag.
A great chunk of this whole thing is improvised.
Sunday morning from 9
at BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. Alan, says Fred in Adoc. The Queen's speech to Parliament yesterday included a crackdown on binge drinking. Will this include Prince Harry, who every time you see him on a night out is legless? Fred, what's the matter with you? Look, rich people in the aristocracy don't binge drink. They're having japes. It's only the poor that binge drink. Don't you understand anything? Paul in Duckingfield. Hiya, Paul.
Well, Alan, you sound like you got a bit of flu, mate.
Nah, it's just a cold. Well, there you are.
This is partly what I'm on about. Is flu catchable, do you know? Or is it just something you either get or you don't?
I think it's a contagion.
Well, the reason I'm phoning is because a bit of information for anyone thinking about taking the driving test in the next few weeks. If the examiner says to you, how you feeling, if you've got a big red bulbous nose and 2 tissues hanging out of it and a scarf around your neck, you've got to say, I'm feeling very well, thank you. Because if you say, I think I've got the flu, they won't take you on test.
No, they won't.
Well, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, not if we want the next person to have them.
No, because you've paid all that money for lessons and they don't even compensate you.
Well, no, they don't, but it's not your fault. But you could have postponed it with illness, and I think you can do that without without any loss. I'm not sure, but...
Well, no, you've got to give 3 working days. So if you test it on Monday and you feel... You test it on Wednesday, sorry, and you feel okay on Monday, you get up Tuesday morning and you feel like...
I know. But the alternative is you infect the examiner, who then has the next week off, and given that they do, 6 tests a day for the week, that's 30 people who are peed off just because you lied to him.
But it's not fair on the person taking the test, because it's not. I mean, I sit with people all day long and they've got flu, and I might get it once a year.
Well, yes, not everybody gets it.
Exactly.
I once a year I have this little bout of sniffly, snorty, sore throaty. It's not flu, it's not influenza, it's a cold. And once a year I get it, and it seems to me I don't know where I get it from.
Exactly.
There's been some research, and there is now an argument that we get it more often from physical contact than we do from what they call droplet infection. In other words, if you sit in the same room as somebody else, you won't get it. But if you shake their hand and they've just blown their nose or what have you, then you would be at greater risk. I don't know how good that research and how authoritative it was. I'm not a scientist, but it struck me as being interesting.
My advice to my pupils in future will be, no matter how you look and how you feel, when they say, how are you feeling, you just say, I'm feeling very well, thank you very much, because otherwise it'll cost you it'll cost you at least £150.
Yeah, well, it's a good point. I'm not going to argue with the advice.
No, but anyone listening,
hey,
tell them you're feeling good.
Tell them you're feeling good. Of course, your chances of passing, if you're in the state you describe, are diminished somewhat. Are they not?
At least you've taken it.
All right, good on
Cheers,
you.
Mate.
At least you've took it, yeah. There you are. And then they'll book some more lessons with you, won't they, Paul? What an interesting thought. 0161 228 2255. And hi, Alan, says James in Heel Green. Every nation has the government it deserves. And boy, have we got one. Make of that what you will. Pam in Rochdale. Alan, you sound like you have a cold. That is a blocked nose. Well spotted, I do, but I'm not going to die from it or care. Nice to hear that your usual bucolic self. Keep it coming. I tried to get a room at the hotel hosting our Christmas do this Saturday. They told me there was no room at the inn. Well, it is Christmas. Derek in Lee. Thank you for that. You've been marvellously helpful. You really have. 0161 228 2255. There was no room at the inn. Dear God. Chris says via an email, the 62nd Norwegian Christmas tree in Trafalgar Square will be lit on Thursday, the 4th of December, in the annual ceremony that attracts thousands of spectators to central London. The tree will be lit by Rune Gerhardsen on behalf of the Mayor of Oslo, in the presence of Boris Johnson, Mayor of London, and the Lord Mayor of Westminster. The ceremony, which starts at 6 p.m, is normally watched by approximately 10,000 spectators, and will include carols sung by the choir of St Martin's in the Fields. The first tree was brought over in 1947 as a token of the Norwegian appreciation of British friendship during the Second World War. When Norway was invaded by German forces in 1940, King Haakon VII escaped to Britain and a Norwegian exile government was set up in London. To most Norwegians, London came to represent the spirit of freedom during those difficult years. What, and all we get is a tree? That's it? That's your lot? We did all that and all we get is a tree? Oh, well. Well, gift horse, mouth, never looking, all of that. Oh, Alan, this is John in Warrington. When I was a bingo caller years ago, if a manager was short in his float, he would drop the jackpot on the bandit after everyone had gone home. I think that's illegal. According to the bump that came with the ballot papers for the TIF referendum, blue badge holders will be exempt from paying the congestion charge. I wonder if there'll be a sudden increase in blue badge holders if the charge comes in. I'm not sure. I rather thought the people who were fiddling it had already done it. It's not like we're short of people that fiddle the blue badge, is it? There's ample of those. Terry in Altrincham says, Alan, can you recommend a radio programme where the presenter, unlike you, doesn't sit on the fence? Have you heard the one about the dyslexic bloke who walked into a bra? Oh, very good, Steve in Northwich. My cold must be making me sound like Eamon and Jimmy. Brian in Stockport. Hiya, Brian.
Good morning. Good afternoon, Alan.
Either of them, hello.
Well, it's one or the other, isn't it? My gripe at the moment is this price of oil. And the way that diesel is still extortionately priced in comparison to petrol. It's down to 88 near me now and 102 for diesel. Now, if you remember a couple of years ago when they had the lorry drivers parked outside terminals blocking the oil, where are they this time? Because they're down to $50 a barrel from 100, but the lorry drivers seem to be sitting on the fence and doing nothing. Has the government come up with something to, get them to not complain?
I've no idea, is the simple answer. Absolutely no idea why the lorry drivers are not up in arms.
Because I would have thought they were the first people to, I mean, you could think when it went up to 70 pence a litre, back in the realms of when. Really? I mean, now it's still over £1, and nobody seems to be complaining. You don't hear any of the truckers griping, moaning about the cost. And I'm just wondering, does anybody know something you and I don't know?
Well, I suspect there is somebody that knows something that you and I don't know, but whether it's related to this, I've no idea. But what can one say? It is the case that it costs what it costs. Last time it cost, I mean, I suppose the truck drivers are thinking, well, by God, it was £2 an egg cup full just a few weeks ago. We're not doing so bad.
Yeah, but in Europe it's dropped dramatically throughout the rest of Europe. It's the UK PLC again.
But there's a problem with the arithmetic here. If the price of oil halves, the price of retail fuel doesn't halve, because the element of the price we pay, a very substantial lump of it, is a fixed rate tax. So that tax is still there. It's rather like wine. The best way to explain it is wine. Wine has a price on it per bottle. If you go out and buy a bottle of Mouton Rothschild 1960, it'll cost you about 180 quid. And the tax on it will be the same as if you go out and buy a bottle of Hirondelle. It'll be exactly the same tax. So proportionately, if they reduce the price of the wine in the bottle, it doesn't have that much effect on the overall price, because a big lump of it in the case of oil, is tax. So when the price goes down for wholesale oil, in France, a lot of that is passed on because the tax is low. Here, the reduction in price of oil is passed on, but the Chancellor still wants his shed load.
Yeah, but the rest of Europe also appreciate that things have to be delivered, and most heavy goods vehicles use diesel, and the government's price it accordingly. So the government isn't making as much.
Well, our government decided some years ago, many years ago, that it would use the motorist as a process of getting what you might call voluntary taxation by spend. Now, you can disagree with that policy, but it's been the policy of consecutive governments.
Which I know from being in transport many years ago. But my problem with it is that nobody seems to be complaining. You talk to friends and whatever. I bought a diesel car, one because it was more reliable and I got more out of the engine, and it was in a comparable price at the time. And also it was greener. But now it's got to the point where, hang on a minute, it's getting sillier and sillier and sillier. I'm now paying 12p a litre difference, where I was only paying 2p a litre difference.
If you work that out in your mileage, you're probably still, in terms of cost per mile, you're probably still a long way in front of the petrol driver.
I am.
I thought you were.
Yeah, I am. But I still object to the fact that when it was 80 pence, it was 82. Even when it went up to 90, it was 93. But now it's back to 88. There's still a 11 to 15 pence difference depending on which petrol station you pass. And I no longer fill up at the garages that have filled up for years. I now fill up like everybody else where it's the cheapest.
Well, that's a very wise policy, Brian. I don't know why the lorry drivers aren't protesting. If you were still one, I suspect you'd be protesting. Thank you very much.
Of the day's news with comic Lou Conran, plus you'll meet a Mancunian sex therapist tonight from 10 with me, Sam Walker.
Is there such a thing as Mancunian sex? Is it different than London sex? Or Birmingham sex? Even Liverpool sex? I've no idea. Mancunian sex therapist. Brilliant. I shall listen to that.
95.1 FM, DAB Digital Radio, and the World Wide Web. This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock.
Shannon, if you're out there, please come on. We love you to bits. We miss you so much.
Tears for her daughter, but all along she knew where she was. Shannon Matthews' mother is found guilty of kidnap, and interest rates reach their lowest level for 50 years.
Roy Keane leaves Sunderland and Sant-André prepares for a sail exit.
Well, this afternoon is mainly dry but cloudy. There's just a chance of a shower and top temperatures 6 Celsius.
And the main road from Glossop to Huddersfield is still closed off. That's Lady Barrow Reservoir along Woodhead Road through to Holmfirth that's shut because of snow.
Good afternoon, I'm Anna Dawson. Within the past few minutes, the jury's returned its verdict in the Shannon Matthews case. Karen Matthews, Shannon's own mother, has been found guilty of kidnap and false imprisonment and perverting the course of justice. Her co-accused, Michael Donovan, was also found guilty of the same offences. Shannon disappeared for 24 days in February. This was the moment Karen Matthews reported her missing to the police.
Police emergency. Hiya, I want to put my daughter is missing, please. Have you been in touch with any of her friends or anybody like that? I've been everywhere I can think of, her friends, wives and family and everything.
But all the time, Shannon was being kept drugged and tied up at Michael Donovan's flat. Jenny Hill, reporter at Leeds Crown Court, says the motive for Matthews and Donovan was to collect the reward money.
All that time, she was hidden away, possibly restrained by a strap and drugged with temazepam, an adult sleeping tablet never normally given to children, drugged with that and a travel sickness tablet to keep her quiet in Michael Donovan's flat so that he and Karen Matthews could wait and watch while the reward money grew to £50,000.
In other news this afternoon, the Bank of England's cut interest rates by 1%, bringing the cost of borrowing down to 2%. The move follows last month's 1.5% cut and means rates are now at their lowest level in 57 years. Ian McCafferty, the chief economic advisor at the business group, the CBI, thinks there's still scope for further cuts.
We said conservatively that rates will need to be at 1.5%, so another half point down from where we stand as of this afternoon by the early spring. The real issue, though, is to what extent can the bank ensure that the cuts that it is making in the policy rate are then transmitted into lower rates across the economy.
The UK's biggest mortgage lender, the Halifax, says house prices have seen their biggest monthly fall since 1992. The value of homes fell by 2.6% in November, with the average home now costing just under £164,000. Nearly 3,500 jobs are going at Revenue and Customs. 90 offices across the country are closing, including 11 in the northwest. Offices in Wigan and Macclesfield are among those affected, with the loss of 85 jobs. Nick McCann from the PCS union represents workers in the northwest.
Feeling amongst the staff is actually one of anger and one of frustration, simply because these staff tend to be, despite the reports in the media, tend to be low-paid staff who are actually dedicated workers intent on delivering the public service.
A health worker from Bolton's been jailed for 3.5 years for performing an intimate examination on a girl when he wasn't qualified. Damien Bible from Gainsborough Avenue in Bolton worked at the town's Parallel Clinic, a sexual health centre for young people. When he examined the 15-year-old, he didn't wear gloves, didn't wash his hands and asked her inappropriate questions. Detective Constable Claire Waring led the investigation.
It was a massive breach of trust on his part, being a sexual health worker and working in an establishment where young children go and feel that they can go. You know, a lot of these kids go without parents' knowledge, but it's a place where they feel that they can go, and it should be a safe place and not a place where something like this happens.
And over 100 schools remain closed across Greater Manchester this lunchtime because of bad weather. Rochdale Council standing by its decision to shut most of its schools despite much of the area missing out on predicted snow.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Steve Wilde.
Roy Keane won't be making another fond return to Old Trafford to face his old manager on Saturday. Just 2 days before the match with Manchester United, Keane has left his job as the Sunderland boss. Philippe Saint-André will leave his job as director of rugby at Sale at the end of the season. The Frenchman will be replaced by current coach Kingsley Jones. The Sharks face Montauban in the Heineken Cup tomorrow night, a game you can hear live here on BBC Radio Manchester from 7. Middlesbrough striker Mido has blamed the Football Association for the Islamophobic chanting he suffered against Newcastle. He says the FA's lack of action when it happened last year contributed to a repeat at the weekend. And the England cricket captain Kevin Peterson says he's very confident the Test series in India will go ahead as planned next week.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Well, we've got a much drier afternoon in store. Just a few scattered showers here or there. It's going to stay on the cloudy side, but the wind should ease considerably, and top temperatures will get to 6 Celsius.
Does she ever go home? Does she live here, Stotty?
With you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Stephen says, "Hi, Alan. I'm as mad as a bag of frogs about this latest Bank of England base rate cut. Let me explain. I've always lived within my means. If I don't have the money, I don't buy the item. I've invested in a personal pension and stocks and shares, ISAs as well as the usual bank accounts. I live in a modest semi-detached. So I've been feeling happy about my lot in life. Healthiest pension fund, healthiest ISA fund, and a bit saved up for the odd treat. Money saved over the past 2 decades. I sit back and watch whilst people around me buy. 4-wheel drives, foreign holidays, bigger houses, more stuff for their houses, all paid for on credit. Talking about building your house on sand. The credit crunch hits. Do I panic? No. I'm not up to the hilt in debt. But I'm starting to worry seriously now. Through no fault of my own, my pension fund and ISAs are decimated. My savings in the bank are receiving next to no interest. Now the Bank of England drops interest rates to their lowest level ever. 1694 AD was the last time they were at 2%. 1694! Who does this help? Asked Stephen. Does it help the prudent people like me? No. It helps all the morons who've spent like there's no tomorrow. No doubt I'll be bailing them out again at some point in the near future when they declare themselves bankrupt or take out an IVA. Yeah, quite, and laugh about it. Of course, don't forget that I'll be funding their means-tested benefits too. Gordon Brown spoke for years about prudence. Ha! What a joke. And before anyone has a go, I'm 40 years old, a working man, and not by any means well paid. Apologies for the rant. No need to apologise. Yours in despair, Stephen. The problem here, Stephen, is, and I don't mean this in any way as an insult, but people like you are useless to the modern economy. If everybody behaved like you, unemployment would be 6 million. Because we wouldn't need all those people making the crap that everybody borrows money to buy. So, modern Western economics are get into debt, buying crap that you've no use for because it gives some schmuck a job. so that he or she can get into debt buying crap they have no use for. People like you who say, I'm not having that because I can't afford it, what use is that? That's absolutely useless. What we need is somebody who says, I can't afford that, but I'll have 5 of the beggars. That's how the economy works. You've not grasped it. In China, they've not got difficulties in China. Well, when I say they've not got difficulties, they haven't got a national health service. They've got a bitter, evil regime. They sell the kidneys and other bits of prisoners they hang for doing sod all but walk in the wrong direction on a one-way street. But at least they're not in debt. They will be as they slowly westernise. 0161 228 2255. Gary in St Helens. Hello, Gary.
Good day, Mr. Beswick.
It is.
And by the way, can I start with saying I'm not a baker?
A faker?
A baker.
Oh, a baker.
Yeah, because you said everyone from St Helens is into bread.
Oh, very good. Very, very good. Yes.
It's the smoking ban you were on about.
Yeah.
Why don't they? I used to be a paint sprayer at Ford's. Why don't they have a extraction so all the airflow is going one way and going out? Big extractor fans that pull your air, pull up bugs at your air as well.
Well,
really strong extractor fan.
Well, it doesn't work for a start. They haven't found a way of doing it.
A big one?
Well, it depends how big you want, but quite frankly, the air conditioning, or even the one that used to blow it out through a hole in the wall, don't work.
It did in Ford's.
No, it didn't.
Spraying?
No, it didn't.
Well, when I was painting there, you were spraying away and you couldn't smell it. Is that good?
Really? So if I went into the factory at Aylwood or wherever it was, and I wandered about thinking, where's the paint shop? I can usually find them. Where is it? Where's the paint shop? I wouldn't be able to find it by following the smell of paint, would I?
No, but that's really toxic, isn't it, paint? I mean, when you're painting it...
Well, Gary, my question isn't whether it's toxic or not. My question is, would I be able to find it by the smell?
Yeah.
I would. In other words, the smell is in the building. Substitute the smell of paint for the smell of fags, and frankly, I don't want to be there.
You're right, yeah.
I know I'm right. It's what I do. Cheers, Gary. Nice try. And anyway, it'd soon clog up with all them wigs, wouldn't it? Or maybe there'd be an extra filter, who can say? Good on you, Eddie. That'd be terrible, wouldn't it? You walk in the pub, suddenly your hair's gone, and a few round here would be bald if it were strong air conditioning. Oh, we got this again, the 60-second Norwegian tree in Christmas in Trafalgar Street, blah, 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 blah. Thank you very much for that, Chris. We've already had it. I've read it out in detail, and I'm grateful to you for it. Alan, the sexotherapist is Mancunian. I hope this sets it straight. Regards, Clive in Northwich. Right, so when they said a Mancunian sex therapist, it wasn't a therapist for Mancunian sex. Right. Well, I live and learn. Peter in Bollington. Hiya, Peter.
Hi, Alan.
What have you got?
Well, just a point. You talked about your dad going training for what was eventually became Operation Freshman in 1942 in Norway.
Yes.
In fact, it was found because of the way that an aircraft drops parachutists, they're rather spread around, and the drop zone was going to be about 5 miles or more away from the actual target.
Yeah.
The goods would be spread all over the place. So, in actual fact, 2 Horsa gliders, and I'm an ex-member of the what was then the Glider Pilot Regiment.
Can I just stop a minute and say, here's a message from me dad. You barmy. Because he thought all them glider fellas were barmy, because you got in a plane with the sole objective of crashing it. But do go on, Peter. He holds you all in high esteem, I assure you, but he still thinks you're barmy.
I admire anybody who jumps out of a good aircraft.
Well,
there you go.
Well, you can go and see him at the Legion in Blackpool and wrestle that one to the ground, but do carry on with your excellent tale, Peter.
Actually, the aircraft, two Horsa gliders towed by Halifax aircraft, flew from a place called Skitton by Wick 500-mile tow carrying, in total, 30 airborne army engineers of 9 Field Company and 261 Field Park Company to blow up the job. It was a night flight and 4 hours odd towing. The communication between the gliders and the aircraft broke down because it was through a wire through the tow rope. So they couldn't talk to one another. They had to fly purely on trying to see through the clouds and everything because it was a direct flight. There was no going round the clouds and stuff. They had to go right to the lot.
Yeah.
And they both got there. Both, in actual fact, crashed. And all of the pilots and the crews, or the engineers they were carrying, were all, in fact, killed. They murdered the lot.
Well,
so that was the operation at Vermork. It's Vermork, actually, the name of the place.
Yeah.
But it's the first airborne operation of the Second World War, and that was our first move into Norway in that sort of way.
I've asked my dad this, and frankly, I've never got a satisfactory answer. But then, lads of your generation don't give satisfactory answers.
Thanks to the lads.
Well, you were once. Even you don't remember it. But when you're in that hull, because that's all it is, a balsa wooden canvas hull.
Yep.
You know, because you're not idiots, you know that a big chunk of the lads you're sat with are going to be dead soon. Which means that must include you. You're going to be dead soon. The chances are very, very high. You go in there to be killed or be killed. How do you deal with that in your head?
Well, in actual fact, when they stand you there and they say, right, out of you three, one of you is going to die, or two of you are going to die, you look at the guy on either side of you and you think, poor sod.
That's exactly what my dad said.
Well, that's it.
You think it's the other beggar?
Yeah. You're going to live forever.
Well, yes, indeed. You're 20 years of age. You are going to live forever, aren't you? Absolutely.
20-odd, nothing's going to faze you.
Yeah.
And your dad was the same.
Yeah.
Except your dad was madder than I was.
No, he wasn't, mate. I'm with him. Oh, come on. Look, if I turned up at Manchester Airport and they said, and when you get to Benidorm, we're just going to throw it down onto the tarmac, I wouldn't be getting on. And if they then said, oh, by the way, when you get off, there's some bloke going to shoot at you, I definitely wouldn't be getting on.
As a point of interest, mentioning Ringway, that's where the glider training, or at least the inception of the regiment, started.
Yeah, indeed. My dad was there for the first wave.
There's a monument there not far from the Paris one, where we meet every... we used to meet in the July as well, the Airborne Forces Day.
And what was that operation called? The
Freshman.
Freshman.
Yeah, Foxtrot Romeo.
Yeah, Freshman, thank you. Good on you. Pleasure to talk to you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Have a cracking day.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
0161 228 2255. How do you not take your hat off to them blokes?
Mornings sound better with Eamon O'Neill and Diane Oxbury.
Eamon and Diane.
You covered your windscreens, which is a very smart thing to do. Most of us when it's going to be frosty. Some people throw an old newspaper over because a newspaper is really useful, isn't it? What have you designed to put on it?
Bath towel.
Right, and when you came out this morning, because it's hammered it down over the last couple of hours.
Could hardly lift them up. They were that heavy.
Eamon and Diane and you.
I was in Debenhams one day with my son. He was about 5, and I was looking for him for ages. And then I heard this laughing, and he was hiding round the back of one of the counters watching me running around the store.
Little devil.
The station with Eamon and Diane for breakfast.
That image is just so horrid, it's beyond belief.
Back tomorrow morning from 6 at BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. How are you? You're right. I'm sorry. Bath towel. Could I have to lift them up? It was that heavy. Colin in Dover. Hiya, Colin.
Hello. There's a big welcome from sunny Dover.
Indeed.
A little bit of cloud up here, but the sun's shining brightly. Lovely.
We all feel so much better for knowing
I bet you do.
In our local rain. Do continue.
Yeah, you sound like you're suffering with that man's flu.
Absolutely, yes. I'll be dead by Tuesday.
My wife doesn't understand. But anyway, I was ringing up about the pubs, the amount of pubs that are closing.
Yes.
We've had our fair share down here, but I must admit, the best one I came across, it's only I think it's a few miles down the road, more down towards Hastings. What he's doing is he's selling beer at £1 a pint. Now, he's selling so much beer that the more he sells, obviously he's making a small little profit. But what he does, the more he sells, the breweries are giving him free barrels after a certain period of time. So with the free barrels, he's making his profit there. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. And people are queuing outside the pub just to get in there. And the £1 a pint, that sounds pretty good deal.
What does it normally cost down there?
Oh, you're talking about $2.20, $2.50 a pint.
$2.50?
Yeah.
Crying out loud.
Yeah, it is expensive.
I dehydrate, I can tell you.
Yeah, but it is. Well, I must admit, I listen to your program quite frequently, and I do get a little bit annoyed when you say the rich south or them down south, and you. Well,
if you're getting beer at £1 a pint, you'll all be rich.
Yeah, I know, but
you'll be rolling in it.
That's only one pub that's managed to do this, and believe it or not, the owner is not even English. He's one of our visitors that's come in, and
it's £1 a pint. I'm sure he's welcome.
Yeah, he's and also just to let you know that Folkestone do have their own wrinklies.
Oh, they do, yeah.
They seem to be breeding them everywhere.
They're all over the place. Can't get rid of them.
No.
Have a good day, Colin.
And
Thank you
have
for
a nice day to you.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
mate. Tom in Newton Heath. Hiya, Tom.
Hi, Alan. Two things. One is I've got a problem. The other one is I'd just like to touch on the smoking problem.
Please do.
But afterwards, if that's okay.
Yeah, if we time, go on.
I've had murder with a...
Well, I tell you what. Rather than have you try and cram them all in about 18 seconds, which is probably not possible, keep hold of your telephone. I'll just get the headlines sorted and come back to you. How's that?
Thank you.
All right, so keep hold of your phone, Tom. We'll be back with you in a moment or two. Telephone number if you want to join us, 0161228 2255. Dave in St Helens says, I think those fans at Ford sucks Gary's brains out. I wondered what had done it. It's 1:20 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines, Anna Dawson.
The mother of Shannon Matthews has been found guilty of kidnapping her own daughter. Karen Matthews has also been found guilty of false imprisonment and perverting the course of justice. Her co-accused, Michael Donovan, was also found guilty of the same offences. Shannon disappeared for 24 days in February. The Bank of England's cut interest rates by 1%, bringing the cost of borrowing down to 2%, the lowest rate for over 50 years. And a health worker from Bolton has been jailed for 3.5 years for performing an intimate examination on a girl when he wasn't qualified. Manchester's weather dry this afternoon with some cloud and showers around, highs of 6 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Well, Woodhead Road between Ladybower Reservoir and Holmfirth still closed off, I'm afraid, because of snow on the carriageway. That's the main route from Glossop to Huddersfield, and Chunnell Lane in Glossop's also closed off between Turnley Road and Hayfield, again because of poor weather conditions in the area. Just taking a quick look now to the cameras over the Pennines, and visibility at the moment actually not too bad. Still fairly wet on the carriageway though from what I can see, so do take extra care, and the winds are still fairly bad around that area too. Don't forget though, if you can update me further, the number to call 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester.
With 2020 traffic through until midnight.
BBC
Radio Manchester.
Right, we're back with Tom in Newton Heath. Sorry about that, mate. What have you got for us?
Right. Alan, I've had some problems with the power company, and it's basically I was putting £25 a week into my electric, and
is that on a prepayment meter?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I phoned up and said to him, look, this is absolutely ridiculous because it's never been this high before. And at the moment, at that time I was having a kitchen fitted, and I've got no stove connected. Basically, I've got low energy light bulbs everywhere, and all I have is my radio and fridges.
So what did they say?
They said, well, we'll get an engineer out to come and check it over, because they'd recently put in a new meter, an up-to-date meter or something.
Yeah.
So he came out, and when he came, the foreman from the building company was actually here in my kitchen, checking it over, ready for handover, passing like. And he came in with all the negatives about this, that and the other, jumping to conclusions, and then he just went down the hallway where the electric meter was. And as I say, the foreman was stood here with me, and all of a sudden he was coming out with expletives. We looked at one another, and he said, well, I've got to go now. And the guy had to move, because when you open that door, it blocks the front door, so we had to move and let him out. And shortly after he'd gone, he came into me, and he said, I'm sorry, mate, I was wrong. He said, it's set much, much too high. Can you leave it a couple of 3 days, which then brought the weekend anyway. So on the Monday morning, I phoned up and asked if I could possibly speak to a supervisor.
Okay.
And this lady came on, said she was a supervisor, and I explained...
So tell me what they said, and then I don't need to know who's saying what. But...
Yeah, basically, I explained to her what the engineer said,
yeah,
and that the engineer told me that it was set much, much too high.
Yeah.
She said, well, he had no right to tell you that.
Well, never mind all that. What was the outcome?
You that. Basically, she said, wait a moment. She went away and then came back. She said, I've checked your settings. Your settings are all right. Everything's right. I said, well, I don't understand. I said, because I haven't even got a cooker on, my love. And I explained to her what I was actually running, and she said, well, I'm sorry, but that's it. Your settings are right, and hung up on me. And I said, well, oh, no, she didn't hang up straight away, because I said to her, what can I do then? She said, well, there's nothing really. I said, well, I'm not happy about this. I need to speak to somebody. I said, I'm not leaving it at this, So I was wondering whether to go and speak to my local councillor or what to do, and I thought I'd phone you for advice.
Okay. Well, the thing to do, really, it comes down to that when you pay for electricity, obviously, you're making a payment for the electricity, but there are other things you're paying for as well, standing charges, all that kind of gubbins. Now, what the electricity, did you say it was?
Yes.
What the Electricity Authority can do, they can look at your bills for the last 12 months, or look at your consumption for the last 12 months, and it's fairly reasonable to predict what your consumption will be, not the cost, because that's affected by the price, but what your consumption will be for the next 12 months. So if you used 10,000 units in the last 12 months, then there's a reasonable prediction that you'll use 10,000 units in the next 12 months over the year, and they set the pricing accordingly. So when you say you're paying £25 a week, what were you paying 6 months ago in the same property?
It wasn't actually the same property.
Right. So you've moved house.
I had to move.
It doesn't matter. What were you paying in the other property?
It was a damn sight less.
No, tell me what it was.
I couldn't say exact.
A fiver?
No, it's probably less than 20 a week.
Less than 20 a week?
Yeah, quite a bit less, yeah.
Now, is it the same supplier?
Yes.
It is. Has your circumstance changed? For example, are there fewer people in the home?
No, there's only me.
No, that's fine. Have the appliances that you use changed? Got rid of, increased, whatever?
No.
So in the other home you had X number of appliances, and you've got more or less the same here, apart from the recent bit where, for a short time...
I've got energy-saving bulbs, which I...
No, please, don't take me out into the detail. We'll be here all day, don't worry. But the appliances such as... you may not have these, but immersion heat, electric fire, all those things, central heating, all of those things, are more or less replicated in your current property.
Yes.
And you're now paying a £5 a week, £6 a week, more than you were paying then?
Yes.
Could that be as a result of the increase in price, in your view?
I really don't know.
Right.
I don't know how much it's gone up by. I don't tell you anything.
Well, okay. What you need to do is you need to try again with the generating company or with the retail company. You need to try again and say, look, I'm still of the view that the setting is wrong. Can you tell me whether you are charging me on the basis of my previous consumption at my previous address? Because what might have happened, I don't know this, what might have happened is they might be charging you on the previous consumption at this address. Well, this address might have had 3 kids living in it. I don't know. Neither do they.
It was actually a different supplier, Alan.
Right, so they had a different supply. So they're effectively in an area of guessing. They have no history of the property, but they do have your history. It's worth talking to them on that grounds. If you're then not happy, for any reason, you can get in touch with the regulator Ofgem. And you can tell them that you're not happy. And they will give you the contact details for Ofgem. So what I suggest you do is get back in touch with them, have a word with them about your consumption record, and say, is this rate you're charging me at, is it based on my previous 12 months consumption record? See what they say.
Yes.
If you're not happy with it, say, in that case, I'm going to pursue the matter with Ofgem. Could I have the details, please? And they're required to give them to you.
Right, thanks for that, Alan.
All right.
The other thing is, Alan, I'm one of these silly numpties that smokes.
Oh, dear.
And there's a reason, but I know it's not the best reason in the world, but I was, by no choice of my own, as a young boy, sent to a boarding school in Cheshire. And I was beaten black and blue because we used to have a walnut tree. When I don't know if you know it, but if you ever get the skin from the walnuts on your fingers go brown. And my backside was beaten so badly that I thought, well, get home for a sheep as a lamb, and I started smoking, and I've smoked ever since. And I find it practically impossible to give up.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I would encourage you to give up if you could, but in the end, we all choose our own poison, don't we?
Yes.
And you're entitled to choose yours. My difficulty with smokers isn't that they choose it for themselves, they foist it on the rest of us. If I sit next to a bloke who's eating too much chocolate, doesn't affect me. Sit next to a bloke who's drinking too much lemonade, doesn't affect me. Sit next to a bloke who's drinking too much Guinness, doesn't affect me. Sit next to a smoker, I get cancer.
The thing that gets me, Alan, is that it was highly promoted and the government was quite happy to allow that promotion to happen because of the money and revenue it was taking.
Absolutely so. There was...
Now they've changed tack completely, and I'm willing to bet that these guys that smoke the big fat cigars and drink the whiskey, I bet they're still doing it in the private clubs.
I suspect that. Well, I don't know about in the private clubs, but I suspect they're still doing it, that's for sure. Good on you, mate. Have a good one. Good luck with your bill. 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, feel free. We're all here. There's a difference between flu and a cold. A cold, you have a runny beak, sore throat, and whatever. Flu, you shiver and go off your food and can't eat. Jean in Rusholme. Or Dr. Jean, as we'll know her from now on. Thank you for that. Correction, only part of St Helens is inbred, Alan. But I do see your point. Yeah, well, it's all the bits that worked at Pilks. Reference pub smoking, the answer's simple. Have a room like we used to have. That way, you don't have to stand outside and get pneumonia. Whoever sent me that text, you missed the point. I don't actually care about smokers getting pneumonia. I really don't. If people are stupid enough to stand in the piddling rain smoking, that's their own cretinous fault. No, I don't want smoking in those premises to keep the idiotic swines warm. I want the landlord to make the choice, or the owner of the property to make the choice, on the basis of individual freedoms. A room in the pub doesn't do it. Every time you open the door, somebody in the bar has to smell you. And frankly, if you're a smoker, you stink. And nobody likes your smell. Not even you. Stephen in Timperley. Hiya. Hello, Stephen. Oh, we have no bananas. Well, at least we have no Stephen. 0161 228 2255. And his feast day is so close. Oh, what about that for a topical reference? Absolute. Stephen, you see. Good King Wenceslas last went out on the feast of Stephen. Boxing Day. I only know that because as a kid I was dragged kicking and screaming to St Stephen's Church in Orford/Longford, because it's on the border, in Warrington, by me mum. Not me dad, he was far too nice. By me mum. St Stephen's with Father Dillon, who was quite scary. 0161 228 22. Try him again. Hiya, Stephen. Right, we're giving up on him. Yeah, well, we might find him out in the ether, you never know. Alan, 10 years ago, of rip-off markets in Manchester, £4 for a German hot dog. Everything on sale is overpriced. Don't bother. That's Mike in Astley. £4 for a German hot dog. Isn't that a Frankfurter? I thought it was. Yeah, well, look, they're not making you pay, are they? It's a choice. If you didn't buy anything because it was too dear, you'd end up with nought. That's the price. £4 for a German hot dog. I've seen them. They're about a foot long, aren't they? If they're ones, I think. I don't understand. I went past the other day. I've not been round the markets yet and may not go. You know, wandering about wood nuts in the rain. I know. I might not go, I'm not bothered, but it's very pretty, I'm glad it's here. And I was going past in the car, and the lights changed to red, so I had to stop. You have no else to do. I had a look around. And they were selling them bird feeders. You know, like nuts in a bag. Loads of them. And I thought, do they do that in Germany for the birds, or is that a British thing, and they're just satisfying their market? Alan, if the person taking a driving test gets a doctor's note saying they're unfit through illness to take the test at any time before the test, including the day of the test, they will not lose their fee. That's Steve, a driving instructor in Blakely, responding to what Paul said, another driving instructor, elsewhere. So there. And I'm not going to fall into this trap for the future, but Steve in Northwich says, tell Clive I'll see him in the Elms later and not to bring those bloody dogs. Now, this could be Osama bin Laden. That could be a code, that, couldn't it? I could have been a party now to a terrorism attack, couldn't I? Yes, you see, so I'm very wary at passing messages on. Well, you see it in the newspapers, don't you, in the small ads. The spies, I know, I've been a soldier, I know. They communicate with spies via the small ads. You look at the small ads in your local newspaper, and it'll say, like they said on oh dear, on that television programme years ago with Bob Monkhouse and Jonathan Routh. Do you remember that? Oh, yeah. But they say things like, is the Count eating kippers with your mother-in-law tonight? Yeah. Candid camera, and they have it there. And that's a code, you see. That's some Rusky lurking here to do us serious harm. He's woken up by that. He said, hello, 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 there's me message. I've been buying a mirror every day, and there's the message on it. Is the counting kippers with your mother-in-law tonight? It doesn't mean anything other than get yourself activated, Rusky, because we've got an invasion coming. So you have to be careful. So I'm not passing messages on. I'm not starting doing that, because it's just, there's no end. Oh, yeah, no end at all. Beswick, what do you think of all the pomp and ceremony for the state opening of Parliament? With the closing of the door, then the knocking on the door with a big stick, all people wearing red gowns, silly wigs. It's a joke! But the point is to let us peasants know our place. Rick in Bolton. Well, you see, I've got nothing to argue against you with. I can't offer a convincing argument to say that pomp and ceremony is of any real merit. Except, I kind of like it, first of all. Second, it's not a bad bit of tourism. Now, I know they don't come to watch that because not many get in, but the whole thing. And third, and this is perhaps the constitutional bit, it reminds us all of from whence we came. And I think there's some value in that. I don't mean the biological one. I mean the state of our rights, responsibilities and nationhood and all of that. And frankly, I think it has something to offer to us. I think the pomp and circumstance, which frankly we're very, very good at, I think it has something to offer to us all in a sort of, look, haven't we been here for a very, very, very long time? And, I mean, to quote Tony Blair, aren't we all, from time to time, to feel the weight of history? Quite so. Anyway, there you are, a bit patronising, but there. David in Sale, does anyone know where I can get a 16-year fixed-rate mortgage at the new rate? Yeah, right, he says. Well, yeah, I bet you can if you shop around. Bet you can. Yeah. They're not keen on them, but that's how it goes. They're not going to give stuff away. No, I'm not doing it. No. Clive in Northwich, can you assure Steve? No, I am not passing personal messages on. I don't care what you say. So, if this means that you two never meet again in the Elms, then, frankly, stuff you. I don't care about the Elms. Or you. I'm not becoming a passer of personal messages. But I have to say, I talked about the weight of history upon us all. That's how journalism began. Oh, yes. The Lion's Corner House in London, which was owned by a bloke called Lion. It was on the corner, and they called it a house even though it was a shop. It was a coffee shop. And people used to go in there and chat away. Yeah. It was a club of its day, and they'd have a chat, and then people would leave personal messages for others, pinned to the wall, effectively. And so Albert would say, on Tuesday, I'm going to stay with my mother in Wales, or whatever. And then Henry would come in and say, oh, look, Albert's going to Wales. And then when Albert came back from Wales, he'd write, I've just been to Wales, it rained a lot. Yeah, they've got some mountains. I know. And loads of leaks. Oh, it's incredible. And he'd write that and pin that up, and everyone would say, oh, that's interesting. And that was it. And then they'd start saying, actually, whilst I was there, yeah, I met this bloke, and he's thinking of having an uprising, a rising up, yeah, and it went on the wall. That was how journalism began. They have a lot to answer for, the Lion's Corner House. But I'm still not passing messages on. Here's one with Tony Capstick. Alan, what's with these namby-pamby kids who can't go to school because a snowflake might land on their heads? In my day, we trudged 42 miles through the snow in us bare feet. And that after doing a 74-hour shift damp pit. Continued on Tony Capstick's classic. Oh, good old Tony Capstick. Is he dead? Is Capstick dead? Does anyone know? He had a lot of bother, did Tony. He was always in bother with the busies. But, well, I say always. Occasionally. Is he dead, Capstick? I can't remember now. Someone will know. Yes, he is. He is. I remember reading that he'd snuffed it. He wouldn't mind me saying that. He had that kind of sense of humour. Really, really weird. But he did do the best gag I've ever heard on a live album. I was actually there when they were recording it. He was introducing Mike Harding. And he said, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to welcome a man whose career I've followed for years with a bucket and shovel. Well, I thought it was funny. Just gone 20 to 2 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Richard Stead.
The mother of Shannon Matthews has been convicted of kidnapping and holding her daughter to try to claim the reward money. The accomplice of Karen Matthews, Michael Donovan, has also been convicted of the disappearance earlier this year. A health worker from Bolton's been jailed for performing an intimate examination on a girl when he wasn't qualified. Damien Bible examined the 15-year-old victim, but he didn't wear gloves and asked her inappropriate questions. And good news, if you've got a mortgage or a credit card, the Bank of England's announced it's cutting interest rates by 1% to its lowest level in more than 50 years. Manchester's weather dry with isolated scattered showers, highs of 6 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Well, it started to turn foggy again on the M62 between junction 21 Milne Row and 22 Rishworth Moor. I mean, certainly nothing like how it was around about 2 or 3 hours ago, but it's certainly starting to look a bit murky again around those two junctions. So do take extra care. A lot of rainfall as well on the carriageway, which in turn again is also reducing visibility too. Let's look around the Poynton area now. Fountain Place, the traffic lights are still out at the junction with London Road South. And if you're using Springbank Lane in Adlington, a fallen tree around Roundy Lane's closed off the carriageway, affecting traffic between Potshrigley and Poynton. And don't forget, if you can update me further, call in on the travel line, the number 0161 244 4951.
I want to live in Roundy Lane.
Roundy Lane.
It's a fabulous name. I'm so jealous. I want to live in Roundy. I'm going to flit. I'm going to find it and flit once we've sorted the traffic out, obviously. Thank you very much.
BBC Radio Manchester.
How lovely.
Sports with Steve Wilde.
Hello, good afternoon to you. Just 2 days before he was due to make a return to the club, where he made his name as a player, former Manchester United midfielder Roy Keane has left his job as Sunderland manager. He'd been having talks with his chairman Niall Quinn today, but speculation about his future had been mounting since he made these comments after Saturday's 4-1 defeat by Bolton.
The fact is, my contract has expired, and I was asked the question how long I could be at the football club, and, you know, in football you never know, and with the results going the way they are, who knows what's going to happen. You always ask yourself every single day, whether after a game or a Monday or Tuesday, if I feel I'm the right man to take the club forward.
Well, Keane's isn't the only departure to bring you, because Philippe Saint-André will leave his job as Director of Rugby at Sale at the end of the season. The Frenchman, who's in his 5th campaign at Edgeley Park, will be replaced by current head coach Kingsley Jones. Former England winger Steve Hanley played under Saint-André at Sale and is still involved with the club. A short time ago, he gave me his reaction to the news.
Pretty shocked. I mean, it was just announced to us all this morning. So, I had a brief little chat with him afterwards, and he said it's probably just something he needed to do for himself. I think it was all explained to us that the actual decision's been made by Philippe himself. It's not something the club's done. Yeah, you can see the shock on the boy's face. Obviously, Philippe's been part of the furniture for quite a while now.
This has evidently come out of the blue, Steve. How big a loss will he be? Because he's one of the most experienced directors of football in the whole of the Premiership.
Yeah, well, as I say, I think he's been here. I think this is his 5th season here, and then obviously he's got the time behind him at Gloucester and obviously Burglen, where he comes to Sale from. So he's one of the most experienced in there. So he's very, very high regarded. I think it'll be a big loss to Sale, but. It looks like they've got Kingsley Jones to step up, into his shoes for the director of rugby role next year, and so I think Kingsley will sort of, been learning off him over the last few years, and he'll obviously bring his own mentorship, into Sale for next year.
And the Sharks face Montauban in the Heineken Cup tomorrow night, a game you can hear live here on BBC Radio Manchester from 7 o'clock. The thoughts there of the former Sale winger Steve Hanley. Middlesbrough striker Mido has blamed the Football Association for the Islamophobic chanting he suffered against Newcastle last weekend. He says the FA's lack of action when it happened last year contributed to a repeat. The England cricket captain Kevin Pietersen is very confident the Test series in India will go ahead next week, despite security fears. Speaking at the airport ahead of their departure to Abu Dhabi later today, Pietersen believes each player is pleased with the decision to make the trip.
I think everybody's become a lot more open-minded as to their decisions and what they wanted to do. They've come home, they've spoken to family members, which has been very, very important. And they just realised that it's pretty huge to go back to India, to rub shoulder to shoulder with the Indians in their time of need, and to go back and do what we do best and do what we love doing, playing cricket. Certainly playing cricket for England we love doing, and to get the opportunity to go back there and to help people out and make a stance is pretty good, and the boys are very, very open-minded now and want to go play Test match cricket.
It's the England cricket captain Kevin Pietersen.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station
is that Heineken Cup contest we were just telling you about. Sale Sharks versus Montauban in the Friday edition of Manchester Sports from 7 o'clock.
BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. Alan in Bolton says, Alan? He does. Alan? Isn't there an invention called air conditioning to clean the air? He's talking about the smoking thing and about having smokers in the pub. Well, yes, there is a thing called air conditioning. I've got it in my car. It came with it. I didn't have it fitted. It's just a Fiesta. And in my little Fiesta, which has air conditioning, if I trump when I'm driving, I can smell it. So clearly, air conditioning doesn't prevent you smelling everything that's going on in the pub. Or the car, for that matter. Yeah. So, your theory, or at least your clutcher to theory, is, frankly, wasted on me. Alan, John in Warrington this is, the code on Candid Camera was, is your mother-in-law eating kippers with the Count tonight? Isn't that what I said? Is it? Rachel, who's producing today, and I suspect wasn't born at the time, is looking at me in complete mystery. But she's never been a spy. She's been in the RAF. That doesn't count. They just fly over it and go home. But no. Now, is the Count eating No, I think it was the other way around. Is your mother-in-law eating kippers with the Count tonight? Is the Count eating kippers with your mother-in-law tonight? No, he's using a knife and fork. Hey! Now, can anyone help us out? Because this is quite important. Yeah, comrade. Comrade. Message received and understood. That's Rusky from Lee. You see, it's terrorism. I'm just being a part of it. The text you read out loud that I sent you was a coded message to a Homo sapien friend of mine. Thanks, lol. This is too hard now. Every time you mention that public house in my message, Clive and I get a free pint. Well, you'll have mouths like sand if it's left to me. I'm not falling to your trap. I've told you, and that's it. And then Ellie... What? Ellie? Yeah, that's it. Ellie from Wigan, or thereabouts, says the simple difference between a cold and flu. If you've got flu, you can't even walk. You can just about crawl from your bed to the loo. Ask a doctor. But man flu, it's just a bad cold. Well, look, I've just got a cold, right? I haven't got flu. Flu kills you if you don't play your cards, right? And I ain't going no place. Well, when I say I ain't going to the cemetery, not even for a look round, never mind a lie down. Oh, I enjoyed that. I just thought of that. I'm not even going for a look round, never mind a lie down. Hey, just a minute, I've got to write that down. Excuse me. I'm going to the cemetery. I'm not going to the cemetery. Not even for a look round. Never mind a lie down. That is brilliant. I like that. I like that. It's like the little lad that was late to school. Yeah. And the teacher said, "Why are you late?" He said, "My grandma got burned." He said, "Badly?" He said, "Oh, they don't mess about in them crematoriums."
Fröhliche Weihnachten. Vrolijk kerstfeest.
Wesołe Vánoce.
Er pardon.
Rождество.
We wensen Shake Christus.
No matter how you say it, say Merry Christmas with BBC Radio Manchester.
That's right.
It's been 10 years since the first Christmas market in the city, and to celebrate, join me for 10 nights of festive sights, sounds and smells as you get to meet the people that make it all happen. This year there's a total of 6 markets spread throughout the city, and to find out which ones we'll be at, visit our website at bbc.co.uk/Manchester. bbc.co.uk/Manchester.
10 years. 10 nights. The Manchester Christmas Markets on BBC Radio Manchester.
Dave in Atherton says, "We send Norway plenty of acid rain over the course of a year. This is instead of any one-off winterlude gift." Acid rain? I'd forgotten acid rain. Whatever happened to acid rain? I know it was going to kill us all, wasn't it, like herpes? Whatever happened? Oh, I miss acid rain. Acid rain used to be brilliant. They used to send reporters out to lakes in Norway and Sweden to develop films in the lake. Oh, that was fun, because there was so much chemical in it. That was fun. I liked acid rain. I miss it now. I wish you hadn't mentioned it. I miss it now. I wouldn't have missed it if you hadn't mentioned it. Oh, acid rain was belting. Morning, Alan, says Steve in Old Trafford. We never used to have trees at Christmas. Then when Victoria married Albert, he brought the tradition with him. I knew that. I wish I'd said it now. You've said it and spoiled me day. Of course, we only get a tree from Norway. I said earlier, as we got the explanation, this all began. I blame Barbara. I do, I blame Barbara. She said we used to get a tree off Norway. Do we still get it? And now we're talking about nothing but flaming trees from Norway. And even going there and bombing it. We've done it all. Anyway, so it's Barbara's fault. But Barbara asked, and now we know, that the reason we get a tree from Norway is because we saved them in the war. Yeah. And as I said, we did all that. Sent our lads over and everything, did all that, and all we get is a tree. Crying out loud. Well, I've got an answer for that. Well, I haven't, but David has in Crumpsall. Of course we only get a tree from Norway. What do you expect for the country with the highest per capita income in Europe? The rich have never been known to throw it about. It's how they get rich.
Lunchtime
very good.
belong to Beswick.
Yeah.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
That's one thing you know, if you look... No, it's true. If you look at a queue of people queuing up to give stuff away, the person at the front of the queue is never a millionaire. It's how it is. Inbred. your comment about Pilks workers being inbred. As an ex-Pilks worker, I'd like to say there's not a shard of evidence in your remarks about Pilks workers. I think your remarks are rather shattering, and would like you to reflect on what you said. That's pretty good, is that? It was all those references to glass, you see. Yeah, that is very, very good. But I've got evidence. I'll grant you it's not conclusive, and now I come to think of it, not overwhelmingly scientific. But years and years and years and years and years and years and years ago, I was going out with a radiographer. And this radiographer... Oh, it was a century ago, very nearly. And this radiographer used to be on call from time to time, and I would go along for a look round, 'cause I was doing a bit of elf work myself, and I used to go in when she was doing her bit. And to speed things up again so that we could get home quickly and do whatever it was we were going to do, I used to help her with the paperwork. And you used to say to people at Pilkington's, because it was at St Helens Infirmary or hospital, whatever it was, and you would say, where do you work? And they'd say, Gate 7. What do you mean, Gate 7? Gate 7 or what? And they'd say Pilkington's, because everybody in St Helens worked at Pilkington's. The glasswork, everybody did. Free bags of coal and everything. Well, what happened then was they ended up working alongside their cousins, because there was nowhere else to work. That was what they did. It was down the pit of Pilks. And at Pilks, they all met their cousins and had rumpy-pumpy with them and made smaller cousins. Do-lally, the lot of them. I'm telling you, it's like the royal family. That's my theory, and I'm not allowing any facts get in the way of it. Alan, this is Sean. How are you doing? Alan, speaking of history, when Parliament was searched for the MP recently, somebody should have said, I see my bird has flown. And you? Sean, thank you very much. That story's absolutely unimportant in every sense, and yet fascinating. Fascinating. You see, the row is now developing into, did the woman, Black Rod, yeah, it's a bloke's name, and she's not black anyway, but did the woman, Sergeant at Arms, did she say, when Plod came along and said, we want to search an office, did she say, have you got a warrant? And the answer is, apparently, no, she didn't say, have you got a warrant? And people are now getting umpty and saying, well, she should have said, have you got a warrant? Now, does that mean that you and me, Joe Public, who are meant, of course, to support our police in all they were doing, yeah? Are we now to say, when Plod arrives at the door, can we just have a look round? Are we to say, have you got a warrant? Yeah? Let's have a look. Let's see the warrant. I wouldn't recognise one if I saw one. But that's what, have you got a warrant? Otherwise, you're not coming in. Is that what we are to do henceforth? Because apparently, they're all saying that's what the Sergeant at Arms should have done. She should have said, have you got a warrant? The busies say, well, actually, no. And she says, well, off you go then. And then the busies have got to go to the magistrates and convince the magistrates that they should have the right to come and have a rummage round in Green's drawers. And we've no idea what the magistrates would have said in those circumstances. I suspect that they would have said, well, hang on a minute, this is a bit iffy, isn't it? Exactly. So they were. But that's what we all have to do now. Do German markets sell bird feeders? Well, I know they do, Terry. I told you I saw them. Do German markets sell bird feeders? I hear you ask with regards to the Manchester market. Well, I'm sure they don't sell Lancashire hot pot, but Manchester's market does. German hot dog, you also question, is it a Frankfurter? Well, it could be, or it could be a Bratwurst, or a Bockwurst. I think I'm communicating messages to spies again here, never mind. Anyway, it was £4, who cares? I won't be having one. Glühwein 2006 was £2. Glühwein, which is basically wine with a bit of old grass in it, warmed up. Glühwein 2006, £2. When I say grass, it's not as good as that, not that kind of grass. No, this is herbs. Or, as the Americans call them, herbs. Why do the Americans insist on calling herbs even posh Americans. I mean, if you talk to the Queen and say, could you lend us some herbs, Your Majesty? She say, I have no herbs, or if I have, they'll be in the kitchen. But if you ask an American, and even a posh one, could he have some herbs? He won't know what you mean. The only herb he knows went to Monte Carlo and a VW. Yeah, they say herbs, despite the H. They're funny, the Americans. Anyway, Glühwein in 2006 at the market was £2. 2007, £2.50. 2008, £3. Next year, and we're relying on you, Terry, to keep us fully informed, because that head of shopping Becky Wants never mentioned this. She never gives you the real story. Next year, 2009, Glühwein at the Manchester markets will be, well, we assume, on the progress it's made thus far, £3.50. Anyway, once on in a bit, she'll tell you. She'll keep you informed. She'll know. Yeah. £2.50 indeed. Why would anyone pay that for warm wine? Dear God. Earlier today, when asked about your health, you said you had a sneezy, throaty, sniffly coldy. And later you mentioned the Norwegian Christmas tree by saying something like, tree Norwegian Christmas. I just want to know if you're after Stanley Unwin's job. It's not a bad idea. See you tomorrow.
Find out the history behind your favourite carols with me, Mike Shaft. This